Long ago, in a distant planet, I, Garlock, the Scarlock's king of the Disgaea city, unleashed an unspeakable evil. But a cybernetic warrior wielding a dark sword stepped forth to oppose me. But before the final blow was struck, I tore open a portal and plunged him into Purask, where I still reign. Now the fool seeks to return to Tsuroxia and undo my rule as Garlock.
No, you dumb nut. Tsuroxia killed you. Hi guys, Obscure Titan is back with another novel essay. Last time we talked about Wrath of Zaboglius after going over the first entry in the Zynektic series. Now we take a look at this entry that was made before the Wrath of Zaboglius. The Tsuroxian Chaos. Unlike the other entries, Jeb Kurikon is not the main character. Adwakan is. And it has a bit of a Samurai Jack vibe to it, but with a more of a Blade Runner kick to it, and some Transformers in it. Anyways, before we dig into this, it's worth noting that this was supposed to be the first attempt to making it fully adult work. Though looking back, it feels a little too safe to be one. And glad it is. Without further ado, let's dig right in. It is October 12/34/13. On the dark red planet Tsuroxia lies a city so distorted and misshapen. Imagined as his New York, but replace the messy apartments and dirty streets with hamster pipelines and canine cretins called the Scarlocks. There was a samurai cyborg who passes by the Scarlocks and other species, such as Purans and Komograx, in the Disgaea city. The samurai was named Adwakan. He searches for a place to stop by and eat before planning to leave the planet. Reason was because a robot named Blue Kaizok is after him for an incident long ago. Adwakan enters the Tsuroxian Strip Dancer Club and gets himself an order of black Xylock rice, which is a dish I actually attempted to make. Spoiler alert, it's sweet. As he gets his order, there is an arena filled with Pycran and female Puran dancers being ordered by Scarlocks to perform. Things weren't going well for them as the guards threatened them to dance or face the whip. Adwakan wasn't pleased with their treatment as he waits for his meal. Things got even worse when the guards were harassing one Pycran dancer named Tsuroxian. Adwakan asked the cooks to watch his food and rushes towards the arena. The guards were ready to fight the samurai, but he grabbed the little dancer just as soon as the food was ready and fled. The chase of the samurai commences. Adwakan steals a hover car and goes on a speeding scene from the Scarlock's troops. They all flew and hovered about from the Disgaea city to the dark forest outside. Adwakan dodged each shot being fired by the Scarlocks until finding a spot in which they lose them. After things settled down, Adwakan drove nearby a lake and sat down near it to eat his black Xylock rice. He encouraged Tsuroxian to join and offer a piece of his meal. He gives a small chunk of it to her, given her smalls being barely 3 feet tall. While eating, they both talked about one conversation and the topic of a former partner from war. 18 years ago, his family left Purask to avoid Kopanaz's reign. He joined a military group called the Blue Rock Galactic Force. One of his partners, being Blue Kaizok, was alone, aside from his mother being the only relative he had prior to the incident. 9 years after, an incident occurred, involving Blue Kaizok's mother giving in to the Zynektic plague and becomes a distorted monster. He was forced to kill his mother, but resulted in him getting bludgeoned violently, but not without having to behead her, and she dies. Shortly after Adwakan finishes his story, he and Tsuroxian got up to find his dojo house where both his parents live in. Meanwhile, Daugus and the Scarlocks found footprints of prehensile feet, which happened to be Tsuroxian's, and report to King Garlock over their findings. Back in the Disgaea city, 3 figures stood at the top of a tall building: Sliver, Blue Kaizok, and Squashakas. Squashakas was previously transported by Jeb Kurikon into Tsuroxia and works with the Tsuroxian militia. Blue Kaizok is the big robot who was savagely battered by his deformed mother long ago, as Adwakan explained from Chapter 1. Sliver is a Wexian priestess, who works with them and uses ice magic. They all chattered over at each other until King Garlock calls them in. going onto a platform which pulls them into his throne room below. Upon meeting the king, Golok informed them regarding Adwaken's interference in taking Tsuroxian from the Tsuroxian strip club, and tasked them to find them. They all agreed in doing so and began their hunt. Somewhere in the forest the two protagonists went. Adwaken and Tsuroxian find the house where the former suggests going into. Upon entry, there are two figures, his parents. Both Kira-kan and Dura-kan were happy to see their son, though is a biomechanical samurai now. He explains he's been on a pursuit and seeks to flee to Purosk, hoping to stop Okmo-Ziko as well, despite it already being done by Jabe Kira-kan, but Adwaken doesn't know that yet. He has a sentimental moment with his parents about doing his duty and then leaves. Shortly after, Blue Kaizak and his two allies fly across the red wine-tinted skies of Tsuroxian. They argue over trivial nonsense until finding out where Adwaken's parents are. The fight was ensued at first until they both turn into Ice by Sliver's powers, and take them in to capture Adwaken later on. Adwaken and Tsuroxian make their way into a desert, in a hovercraft Adwaken stole earlier. They venture into the harsh winds of the storm. However, the storm's winds were so strong, Adwaken and Tsuroxian were flung into a chasm so deep, it was difficult to see. Upon crashing into the cave, Adwaken and Tsuroxian find themselves seeing orbs floating towards where they're facing, screaming, "Hail the Judge of the Dead!" They proceed further into a cave until coming across a throne room with two figures sitting together, Darkross, the primordial of death, and Apholix, the primordial of desires, sort of like Hades and Aphrodite in Greek mythology, except that Aphrodite is in the role of Persephone. Anyways, Darkross explains that he helped Zynektos in defeating Objector and imprisoning him inside an asteroid with light Zynexity. Adwaken informs them that he's wanting to go to Purosk and defeat Okmo-Ziko. However, the duo need to head out of the cave first. This was soon revealed to him that Jabe Kira-kan defeated the robot warlord already. This, of course, led to Apholix suggesting that a little close-up moment with the samurai, so much so that she could go all over him for a brief moment. Once said and done, Darkross and Apholix prepare a portal via a potion, and proceed into the same desert, though the harsh winds they faced have seemed to have ceased already. After Adwaken and Tsuroxian left, Darkross and Apholix point out that Syra, naming her Hydroclon, could replace Zynektos. For now, they agreed that so long as Zynektos' reign is in power, they should stay hidden. Meanwhile, at the tallest tower of the Disgaea city, King Golok receives a message from his minions regarding Adwaken's whereabouts. Sliver explains through a microphone that they are searching for the samurai and Tsuroxian in the desert. Golok also said he's got plans for Purosk once they captured them. In surprise, they found Adwaken and Tsuroxian. They all fought in the desert. Adwaken and Tsuroxian tried all they could to fend off against the hunters, but Blue Kaizak's intense brutality and Sliver's clever ice magic proved too much. The samurai and the dancer pulled their own tricks up their sleeves to get away. Eventually, the hunters defeated them thanks to Blue Kaizak's intense might. Blue Kaizak reminisces over his memories with Adwaken and how he felt betrayed for being left behind while trying to fend off against his infected mother who is deformed by the Zynektic plague. The hunters take Adwaken to King Golok while Tsuroxian secretly makes her way behind them without notice. Blue Kaizak flies up to King Golok's tower in the Disgaea city, but as the hunters make their way in, so too does Tsuroxian without getting caught initially. Blue Kaizak, Sliver, and Squashaka bring Adwaken before King Golok and his parents, as was stated in Chapter 3. King Golok congratulates the hunters for their task. However, he points out that they failed to capture Tsuroxian. Blue Kaizak was embarrassed by this information and forced to find her, without knowing Tsuroxian is in the room where they stand, and heads out to finish a quad of the task. Once the robot leaves, the king demands his guards to take Adwaken and his family away. Dogos notices a particular being hiding in the pillars as he was about to carry out his duties, but shrugs it off as he proceeds onwards. Golok hands a key to Squashakas, which got Sliver confused. It's revealed that they're planning on invading Purosk for an expansion. In other words, socialist imperialism. And in return, Shakas plans to take out Rodalakro for revenge. They turn against Sliver and throws a sliver of ice at Golok. She battles Squashakas in retaliation for his betrayal. Tsuroxian joins the fray and fights off the treacherous Kumagrak in Sliver's need of help. With the potion in her hand, Squashakas falls into a sleep while King Golok bleeds out his last life force. After this fight is over, Sliver and Tsuroxian make their way out to escape the facility and find Adwakin and his family. Tsuroxian and Sliver escape King Golok's throne room. In an elevator, the Wexian Ice Priestess reveals her backstory to the dancer regarding an event taking place on her home planet on Juvamuk's 4th, 3397. In this flashback, Sliver and her mother escaped their home planet Wexia. There seemed to be a mutated monster, presuming it to be caused by the Zynektic plague, and spits out acidic liquids onto the village as monks are trying to stop it, but to no avail. Sliver and her mother found a hovercraft nearby, using her ice magic to form a key into its keyhole and flee. The mother decides on going to Tsuroxia and have Sliver with her as well. Had it not been for Kopanaz's warmongering in Purosk, she would have considered going there instead. Coming back to present time, Sliver and Tsuroxian realize that there are Skarlock soldiers patrolling in the building that their late king resides. She explained that she'll cover Tsuroxian inside her cape. The soldiers asked about her damaged state and pointed out Squashawkus' treachery. Though as she was about to leave, one Skarlock's trooper smelled something within her, assuming Tsuroxian was hiding in her cloak. But the priestess demands going up to King Golok's throne to attend to their dead king. Sliver and Tsuroxian make their way to the hovercraft nearby and ready themselves. However, they got spotted by Skarlock soldiers who discover that Sliver is behind the killing. They both hover onto the parking lot near the building and vanished. But while that's going on, the troops see King Golok dead and Squashawkus lying on the ground. The Comocrack said that it was Sliver's doing. Worse for him, Sliver took the key away from him to go to Purosk. This angry Comocrack sets his Skarlocks to go after the two women and find the key before they could find Adwakin's family and escape to Purosk. In the chaotic streets of the Disgaea city, Adwakin and his parents are inside a vehicle to be taken to a prison facility. Adwakin wakes up and uses his claws to escape, with his family alongside him. They manage to escape and find another hovercraft coming their way, only to stop onto the front windshield to find a place where a portal to Purosk is. Meanwhile, Sliver proceeds driving towards where Adwakin was driving and is being caught up in a mob of Skarlock's troops huddling in the streets. He got so bad that they needed to hover higher to avoid being crowded. They caught up with Adwakin driving and called him to get into Sliver's car. He was reluctant at first, given their interactions prior to this scene, but she explained that Squashawkus and King Golok were planning to invade Purosk. He and his family jumped in afterwards. Knowing this information, Squashawkus orders Skarlock's troopers to go after them before reaching a facility with a portal in which the key Sliver took is used for. All the while, he contacts Blue Kaizok to help stopping Adwakin's crew from leaving. Upon arriving to the facility, Adwakin and his allies prepared themselves for activating the portal with the key and set coordinates. After a mildly rude comment, I wouldn't say it's rude, just a funny compliment actually, was made about Sliver, Kurakan slapped Adwakin in the wrist and demands an apology. He did so afterwards and Sliver smirked. In the mix of all this, Sliver's mother named Antarza joins in. She also helped setting up the teleportation and reuniting with her daughters since after they got separated in Tsuroxia. While they're prepping up the portal, Blue Kaizok is heading to their direction and sets to stop them. Just moments before they could set coordinates in the Kuruda Forest and heading towards it, they all clashed with Blue Kaizok and destroyed the portal in the process, leaving Squashawkus and his crew without a means to easily get to the planet. Shortly after the portal to Purosk was destroyed, Blue Kaizok and Adwakin settled the score on their birth planet, Purosk. But while the fight is going on, Jabe and Crimzoid exit out of a tower. They found out about a fight between Adwakin and Blue Kaizok. They try to interfere, but the robot puts a lot of damage to the samurai, almost nearing to the point of what seemed to be victory for him. However, Jabe and Crimzoid begin to interfere and threaten the robot. While that's happening, Tsuroxian sneaks on to Blue Kaizok, opens up a pack of missiles, and shoves it into his body. The missile counted down and it begins to beep. Eventually, the heroes and anti-heroes got out of the scene, in which Blue Kaizok exploded. Moments after the fight, Adwakin and his crew were taken to a tower Jabe and Crimzoid reside to contact Sidorid. They also mentioned Injector's potential return after being imprisoned due to a battle with Ziboglyus, in reference to the finale of The Wrath of Ziboglyus. It seemed as though Adwakin got it off easy, and Tsuroxian too. But after I finished Tsuroxian Chaos, I went into writing The Wrath of Ziboglyus, which I already made a video about since it takes place before Chaos chronologically. About a year and a half later, I went back to the series and wrote the Zynektic World War, back between October and December of 2020. We'll be covering that next, and then Godzilla vs. the Zynectoverse. More info on the latter once we get to the Zynektic World War. Thanks for watching. Obscure Titan saying feel free to subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. Over and out.